Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to this Friday's Unity Hour. We've all made it through another week. Congrats on that, and thank you for carving out time to join us here today. Before we kick things off, just doing a quick round of intros. I'm Katie. I'm on the community team here at the Mom Project. I'm joined by my colleague Colleen, who's the head of community here at the Mom Project, and we have our amazing expert for today, Anna McKay, with us as well. For those of you who have been perhaps joining Unity Hours for the past 5 weeks, or maybe this is your first Unity Hour, we just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you for showing up week after week, for making yourself open and available to learning and engaging with us in this kind of new platform. We are doing this for you, and we hope you are all getting as much as humanly possible out of these sessions. And for those of you who have any questions or feedback or comments that you want to share to us about Unity Hour, please feel free to shoot us a note at community@themomproject.com. If you have a dream session you would love to see, let us know. We check that inbox all day, every day, and yeah, we want to hear from you and make sure whatever we have lined up in the weeks ahead is serving you all the absolute best it can. So yeah, just a quick little PSA here. But today we're really excited for today's Unity Hour. This is something you have all been asking for a while. So today is an Ask an Expert session specifically dedicated to the return to work experience. At the Mom Project, helping women navigate their career trajectory and their path, whatever direction, that may take, including returning to work, that's core in our DNA. We work all day, every day to help women kind of bridge that return to the paid workforce experience. And, we do as much as we can to support. But we know that there is a whole wide world of jobs out there, and not every single job, you might be applying for may or may not be through the Mom Project. So we really wanted to bring in an expert today that can really answer top questions about how you can best position yourself in the broader marketplace to make that return to work transition. So to all 1,000 plus of you that might be on right now watching, thank you for signing up. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for submitting your incredible questions. They will be answered today in real time. And just wanted to kind of let you all know, you guys are already on the right path by showing up today, being open to learning, being open to kind of thinking about ways you can kind of market yourself in, new and exciting ways. So this is the first step into what we believe will be a very successful journey for you. So we are thrilled to have Anna McKay join us. Anna is a career transition and leadership development coach and the founder of Parents Pivot. Anna has really dedicated her career to helping women, moms, parents, anybody who's looking to re-enter the paid workforce, really make that transition as smooth as possible for them. And we are so thrilled to have her here, and has incredible insights, proven methodologies, and just really great stories to really empower you all to keep pushing on this return to work journey. So we're really excited. As always, please feel free to add in any questions or thoughts you might have in real time during the session in the live chat, and we'll surface as many of those as possible on this session. So let me just stop my screen share, and without further ado, I'm going to kick it off to Anna.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you all at the Mom Project for having me here. I'm so excited to talk to this community. As you mentioned, return to work candidates really do have a special place in my heart. I've been through 2 expat assignments with my husband's work and international moves, and I've moved several times domestically. And all throughout that time, I've met so many amazing people, mostly women, who just like the people on the call today, have taken a career pause, whether that's for childcare or caring for aging parents or moves internationally or domestic. And I love working with this population. I see so much value that they bring, and I love to help them see that too. So So today we're going to talk about returning to work. So get your pens and papers ready. We're going to give you tips on resumes and interviews and all of that. And we're going to spend a little bit of time up front talking about challenges specific to return to work candidates. And so as you all know, it's hard to return to paid work when you have a gap in paid work experience or a career pause. And, a couple of years ago, there was a study done that showed that for stay-at-home mothers who had a career pause of about 18 months, they were half as likely to be called back for interviews when compared to mothers who had been laid off for the same amount of time period. In addition, those mothers were called back a third of as many times as working mothers who without a career pause. And so there is a bias out there. And I know you all feel that. So we'll address that today in this workshop. And second, add on top of that COVID-19 and all of the people who have recently been furloughed and left unemployed, and you as a returner are entering that market with people with more recent job experience. So we'll address that too. And we'll give you some tips to set yourself up as a successful return to work candidate. So let's get started with that. First of all, let's address the bias against stay-at-home moms. It's real, it's out there, and this applies to any return to work candidate, whether you're a stay-at-home dad. The study focused on moms, but it's for stay-at-home dads, anybody with a career pause. So I want to tell you there are only 3 things that companies are ever worried about when they're bringing on a new employee. And I wanted to break this down into something that was so simple that you could take it away and you could remember it, and you could apply this to your resume and your interview. So I wanted to make this really simple. 3 things. The first is commitment. The second is competence. And the third is cultural fit. So are you committed to returning to paid work? This, unfortunately, is something that I hear companies, and of course they don't say this out loud, but when I uncover it, they are concerned, especially with people with a career pause, if they are committed to returning to paid work. So this is something that you need to address directly. Don't leave them guessing. And the way that you can address this is by talking about past professional experiences where with the right team, you have been loyal. And I know I talk to so many returners who have loyal experience in their past. And if that's not the case for you, talk about how you're excited to return to paid work and you're excited to use your professional skills. And when you return, you want to stay with the right company and the right team. So it's your responsibility to address that commitment piece. Next, competence. So competence. Do you have the skills to get the job done? And I know from working with my returner candidates, you do. The answer is yes. Sometimes it's hard to figure that out. Sometimes it's hard to see how your skills and your value that you bring translate into the workforce. And that's what I do with my clients all the time. We focus on the value that you bring, and that's unique to everybody. Oftentimes, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the resume section when I get to resumes, but if you are uncertain about the skills that you bring, look for certifications or look for experience. So that's the way to address commitment and competence. And finally, the third one is cultural fit. So this really goes both ways. So you need to understand for yourself, does this company feel like the right cultural fit? If they are throwing up red flags and you're seeing things like this company is really skeptical about my career pause and I've demonstrated my commitment, I have the skills, and I know from the work that I've done that I bring value, and if they're still not seeing it, don't waste your time. I know companies like the Mom Project are out there and great resources. And thank you so much for finding those companies that are willing to work with you. They are out there, and they're becoming more and more prevalent every day. So know that the cultural fit goes both ways, and do what you can to show that you would be a great cultural fit if it's a company that feels like it aligns with you and your values and what you want to contribute in the workplace. So with that in mind, so that we've addressed the bias against returner candidates, you need to address your commitment, your competence, and your cultural fit. Next, how in this time of COVID, when you are a return to work candidate and you have been out of the workforce for a while, and there are other people who have more recent work experience, how do you relate to that, and how do you show that you're the candidate for the job? So one thing that I want to share with you in conversations that I've had with recruiters, companies are really looking right now to, if they are hiring, they're looking to hire and tighten their budgets. And companies are hiring right now. So definitely keep moving forward in your job search. And so if companies are hiring right now, they are more interested in hiring candidates who may not be 100% qualified, but who are trainable and who are eager and ready to go. So that can be an advantage for stay-at-home parents and other returner candidates who are looking to return. If you show that you're trainable and you're excited and you're enthusiastic, then that's a definite plus for you. And next, know your value and express your value. And third, good employees are always hard to find. So if you can demonstrate that you're a good employee and you're the right person for the job, then you'll be able to do it. And finally, I've come up with an acronym. I like to say that returner candidates have depth. So most of the returner candidates embody several of these characteristics. Pick the ones that apply to you. So the D in depth stands for determination. Most of my clients have been so determined in their volunteer work that they've done, or work that they've done with their kids' school, or the parenting that they've done. They've showed clear determination, and they can bring that to an employer, which is so valuable. So if you can communicate your determination, then that's an excellent place to start. Next, the E in depth stands for energy. So if you've been out of the paid workforce for a while, you bring a renewed sense of energy to a group, a team, a position. So I've had employers tell me that when they've hired return to work candidates, they brought such fresh energy. It was a light to the team, and it really lifted everybody up. So having that fresh energy from somebody who's not been working consistently, that's unique to returners, and that's an excellent asset to have. So that's the determination and energy, DEP. The P stands for professionalism. Most of the clients that I work with have some past professional experience where they have a proven track record of success. So don't forget that. Know that you've done this before, you can do this again. And to convey that to an employer, to say, I know what I'm doing. I was successful and I worked hard in the jobs that I've had before. I will do that for you. And I know what it's like to be in a professional environment. That will give you an advantage over other candidates to demonstrate that professionalism. So that's DEP, determination, energy, professionalism. The T stands for thought-provoking questions. So and perspective. And so a lot of my return to work candidates, when they've been out of industry for a while, if they bring a new perspective. They've not been in industry, they've not been doing things the way everybody's been doing it all along the way. There have been studies done to show that if you bring in an alternate perspective, you may be a better problem solver than people who are entrenched in the system and ingrained in the system. So this is another way that returner candidates really bring value. So think about that and think about how that applies to you in your situation and the industry that you want to go back to. So that's the T. And finally, H is heart. And so the experiences we've had, if we've taken a career pause for caregiving, whether that's for children or for aging parents, for our own health, or to take care of siblings, we have had so many opportunities to develop empathy and heart. These life experiences have taught us the importance of using empathy in conversations, in tough conversations, and communicating with people with empathy. And empathy is one of the #1 skills that's important for leadership today. And it's been touted as an excellent skill to have in negotiation and an excellent skill to have in leadership. And we as caregivers have had a plethora of opportunities to practice this, and you bring that to the table. So that's so those are addressing the 2 key points that I think a lot of return to work candidates face. They're concerned about the bias, and know that you demonstrate commitment and competence and clarity. And then how do I compete with other people in the job search? You show them that return to work clients have depth. So, and the depth was D, determination, energy, professionalism, thought-provoking questions and perspective, and heart and empathy. And so we'll move on to resumes, because I know that this is a huge area for most of my clients. How do we address the pause? And so I just want to say I love what you guys have said in past Unity hours and what the Mom Project says about power in the pause. There is. I totally believe that. Use that. I believe that the pause is really your secret weapon, because most people in industry have not taken the time to reflect on what they want to do, on the skills that they bring, on the strengths that they have. They've not taken that time. And if they have, they're often too scared to change. It's got a lot of invested already. So how can we make a change right now? And so for returners, you've got this opportunity right now. You've got this pause where you can reflect on the strengths that you bring, know the skills that you have, and connect those to the needs of companies. And you can position yourself as the candidate for the position. So I think those are all definitely important points that need to be made. So with that in mind, I just want to make sure I'm not missing any of my return to work. Oh, transferable skills, you guys. I wrote an article on mom transferable skills, so I'm happy to share that with anybody who wants it. But I talk with my clients all the time about transferable skills. And this is unique to everybody. So you got to figure out what works for you and your experience. But know that many of the common ones that I talk about with clients include experiences from their volunteer experience. So definitely on your resume, include any experience, whether it was volunteer or whether it was a consulting project, anything that you did, whether it was paid or not, include that in your experience section, and relate it to the job that you want. So some of the skills that you might want to include in that experience section, and this is up to you and your experience and what you have had, but some of the clients that I work with, often these are the topics that come up. organization. They have organized and managed teams and people, and along with that comes communication. Clearly communicating what needs to be done, clearly communicating expectations, making sure that everybody on the team knows when they need to show up for the game, making sure that everybody knows what they need to bring to the next practice. Those kind of skills of identifying what needs to be communicated and making sure that everybody gets that message, that's transferable to the workplace. Another one is project management. So taking a project from start to finish, thinking it through, knowing everything that needs to get done. Logistics. I had a client tell me that, the work that she did at home was quite a lot like the work that she was doing for her company in logistics and operations. And so just knowing, a lot of people have calendars, and I know people that have Excel spreadsheets to map out their kids' activities. And so I don't want you guys to talk about things that are necessarily that are not applicable to the workplace, but anything that's applicable, you can put that on there. And a lot of that comes from your volunteer experience. So project management, logistics, motivating a team. If you can motivate a team of first graders to play basketball, or a group of volunteers to get anything done, then you can motivate a team who is getting paid to do the work that they're getting to do. So research. I know a lot of my clients have done a ton of research on whether that's schools that their kids have applied to, or after school activities, or understanding the needs of their kids. Some of my clients with special needs children have gone above and beyond to research what methodologies they think will be helpful, what tools will be helpful for their kids. And this research skill is definitely applicable to the workplace. I've had other clients, and finally, the last one is problem solving. I've had clients who have talked about how they've had bigger problems in their personal life that they've had to manage and get through than they've ever had at work. And so some of these challenges include caring for our elderly parents. How do we figure out the right place? You've done this research on all the places that are appropriate for our parents to go to, but some of them, check different boxes. We've gone through that. We've delegated. We've asked people to help us, support us through this process. And you've done the research. You've done the problem solving. You've got those skills that can apply to the workforce too. So I definitely don't want you to use cutesy titles like CEO of the McKay family, but use all of that relevant experience that, depending on the job that you're applying to, fit that job description. So another thing, I'm really a big fan of experience over longer education. I know that you can get really great experience from volunteer work. You can get really great experience from reaching out to your friends and your network and saying, look, I'm interested in going back as a marketing professional. Can I help you, my friend who owns this small restaurant in my town? Can I help you with your marketing for that? And that builds up your consulting portfolio and gives you the experience that you need to get things done. There are lots of certification programs out there too that can help you get the skills and up to speed quickly. You don't always necessarily need to go back for that big master's program. You can do this with volunteer experience, consulting, and shorter term certification programs. So with that, Katie, I know you guys have lots of questions.
We've got lots of questions. So Katie took a bunch and compiled them for me. And then I've also been monitoring in the chat. And so wanting to surface some of those hot topic questions. So I'm going to start with this one because we have a lot of people asking this. What about my age? And how do I overcome what I perceive as bias or ageism? How do I potentially articulate a 15 or 20-year career pause? What are sort of what's your best advice for overcoming sort of that hurdle and that it's a big topic.
It is. It is a big topic, and that's definitely something that I work on with my clients. So first thing is that I would say, leave out any identifying years in your work experience, like take out your graduation year. If you have your year in your email, take that out. And that brings me to another point. Use an appropriate email. Use something that identifies you as an individual, not as part of a family, not as like the McKay family or Katie's Nana. Use something that is individual to you, and that shows that you're a professional. And so making those small changes to your resume can be really important. And next, I would talk about, the experiences that you've had and the skills that you bring. Focus on your transferable skills. Focus on whether, if you've had a longer gap, then that can be difficult. And I've worked with clients who have had really long gaps and feel like when they come to me, they don't know if they have any skills or value to offer. And they've been able to find jobs. And so, I had one client who I'm so proud of, just returned after an 18-year career gap. She just returned last week in the middle of COVID. And so it can be done. And what you really need to be able to do is to use your network. Another thing that people, if they're 50 plus, have a wider network of people than people who are younger. And so utilizing that network, not being afraid to reach out to people that you know and just start an informational interview, have those conversations. So, yeah.
That's great. And we had a couple other kind of responses as you were talking. So I just wanted to kind of continue on with this. So makes sense. We also don't require graduation year through our resume tool. We don't require graduation years. Some online application sites and LinkedIn actually do require them though. And so in that case, you can't really get around it. Do you have specific advice for people as they're navigating through this? Is there some tried and true way to sort of foresee the objection, right? Companies aren't going to come out and tell people this is why you're not getting an interview. And so do you use the same framework with that you started with at the beginning, as you start to think about this bias against age and this bias against return to work? Is there anything that you sort of have as like a mental mindset framework?
Yeah, so we'll know that you can do it. And we've got you think about the depth that you offer, right? Go back and think about that. Think about those transferable skills that we mentioned earlier. And the job, pick the things that are most applicable to the job that you're applying for and demonstrate those, and talk about how you've learned new things in your experience. I've had clients had one client who's implemented technology for her schools and for nonprofits. And, that's something that, a company might not expect from a returner candidate. But, if you can show that you're up to speed on what's going on and you know how to implement new projects, new technology, then you can show them that you're capable and you have the skills. So go back to that commitment, competence, and cultural fit. That's a competence piece.
Yeah. Something that we're also hearing, I've got two questions. There's so much, we could do this probably every week. So how do we think about, you're coming back to work from a pause? At what level are you coming back to, right? So is there some kind of arithmetic that allows you to understand what level you're able to come back into? Do you need to drop down a level to be able to get in somewhere? Sort of, how do you strategize with your clients for that specific?
Yeah, and it depends. It depends on your experience. I would say it depends on how long your career pause is. It depends on what you've done in that career pause. It depends on the industry that you were in prior to your pause. It depends on if you want to go back to that industry. It depends on if you want to switch and change to a different industry. It depends on if the industry that you want to return to has changed a lot in your time away from paid work. And so all of those pieces are critical to understand. Another important thing is really being aware of what the market value is for each job description and knowing how you line up with that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so being really clear on the value that you bring, how that translates to the job description, being aware of what the market value is,
Yeah.
and all of those critical factors that I talked about earlier. So
Absolutely. Okay, so something I think we run into when we hear this fairly often is often the first hurdle, if you do get an interview, you've made it through the ATS, you've gotten through the screening process, right? And then you're interviewing with someone who's 23, right? Who's like a junior level recruiter who's screening candidates. And you're talking to someone who has a wealth of experience, maybe has a gap, maybe doesn't, but they are not speaking the same language. So how would you advise that candidates articulate their experience to someone who maybe doesn't identify with the life journey of someone who's a little bit older, and or doesn't understand what a career pause is? Like, what would sort of, do you experience that, I guess? Do you hear that from people? And then if you have any advice on that?
yes, yes. So how do you relate to the hiring manager that may be 23?
Or recruiter? Not, you haven't even gotten to the hiring manager.
No, okay.
Because recruiters are so less experienced. Maybe, they're not that young, but.
Yes. Well, I mean, I know, so I've also coached college students, and I know when I talk to them about the work that I do, they're like, that's so amazing. I love that you help people return to paid work, because I would love to be able to do that someday.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous that you can't take a pause for to care for tiny humans or aging parents or your own health and return. And so I know when I have those conversations with my younger clients, they are totally on board and see how what's in it for them.
Right.
And that, I know that I want that option when I get to be at your point. And so I definitely want to do everything I can to help you, because you have the commitment and the competence, and you would be a great fit here. And I want people like you on my team.
That's great. I mean, that's so much of what the conversations we have with companies is really around, we're basically advocating for return to work candidates. And so that typically isn't coming up, but we still do experience some amount of education for, hiring managers, recruiters, to really empathize that this is what's good for working parents within a culture is good for everyone in that culture, ultimately, right? So whether you're the 23-year-old recruiter who wants to be able to leave and work out at 6, and that's your life and that's what's valuable to you, that is important to you, and you should be able to do that, much as people should be able to return to work after a pause, be able to care for their children, have the flexibility and respect to be able to do that. And so back to your earlier point about culture fit, when we are looking at return to work candidates going back into cultures, we want to make sure that that's a two-way conversation, right? And if you're getting the brush back from 23-year-old recruiters, nothing against the 23-year-olds of the world, if you're getting the brush back and you're feeling the negative vibes, like, it's an indicator that that culture is probably not the best place for working parents, right? Sometimes it's a rotten apple, right? Like, where it's someone who just hasn't had the coaching. Often it's indicative of a bigger cultural issue. Yes. Okay. Let me see what else I have here. We've got so many questions. Let me pull up I have a whole.
Can I jump in with one?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, great. So for those who are looking to reenter, but also kind of want to pivot at the same time, do you have any tried and true strategies for people to kind of leverage if they're doing that? So maybe they were in a completely different industry and they're looking to return, but see a lot of opportunity in a new industry. How do you have any insight in kind of navigating those waters? Because we got a lot of questions around that, specifically making a pivot as part of the return.
Yes, and I love that question. I named my company Parents Pivot because I believe that parents are excellent at making any sort of pivot that they want. And so there's power in the pause, there's power in the pivot. And so if you have, we change. Our life experience changes us. We may not want to do what we thought we wanted to do when we left school in our early 20s. We may want to do something totally and completely different. Maybe we have had an experience with our children that has taught us that we really want to go out there and advocate for something. Maybe we've learned something, whether it's through our volunteer experience or through, just our life experience, that's shown us that these are our passions, these are our strengths. What I was doing before wasn't really aligned with my strengths. So this is all great, and making a pivot, you definitely can do that. And so I would start with, industry associations. So what industry are you looking to return to? What are the industry associations in your town for that? And go through and take a look at past events. Take a look at future events. There are a lot of virtual events these days. There's a lot on the internet. So go back and look at past events and see what they've been talking about. That will likely give you hot topics in that industry, and you can learn about what's going on and develop the skills that are applicable to that work. And then secondly, if you're deciding to make a pivot, that may have come from some kind of inspiration in your personal life, or just from your own soul searching, and from some of the work that I do with my clients. They often realize that first they come to me and they're like, I don't even know what I want to do, and we work on that, and we figure that out. If they have had some personal experience that informs what they want to do next, go reach out to those people that you just connected with through this personal experience to say, look, I think I want to make this a bigger part of my life. I have so enjoy being a member of this community. I want to do more. I want to make a bigger impact. I want to figure out how to use my marketing skills that I've gained here. I want to figure out how to use my logistics skills that I've gained here to spread this bigger and better. So so it's all about transferable skills, going to the industry associations, and using your network.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, and you touched on it a little bit, but like that networking piece is like, as soon as you start to verbalize some things, you hear yourself saying it. It's like, oh, like I'm actually talking about this idea, this little nugget of an idea in my brain. Like that's kind of the first step to, making it come to life. And like, also people won't know what you're looking to do unless you talk to them about it. So I think we were talking about this the other day, Anna, like, okay, maybe you're, sitting in the bleachers with other parents. Start talking to them. Oh, cool. They actually work in the industry I want to make a pivot to. Pick their brains. See if you can do coffee, something like that. But especially with that pivot piece, like getting as much insight you can, knowing exactly what you're getting into, and like being able to kind of even take it upon yourself to upskill, rescale, dig into certain topics before you fully engage down that path, like is important. So yeah, I think that networking piece is.
I know. And I can't tell you how many clients of mine have found jobs by talking with other parents at birthday parties.
So true. I mean, it's absolutely so true. And really, networking is such a big topic all in and of itself, right? And it doesn't need to be specific to return to work networking principles. I think ultimately, like, you're using the network you have, you're investing what you can offer right into the system, so that you're creating this really great give take. And so good news for everybody, we're actually going to do a specific Unity hour on networking and some programs around how to build your network and effectively leverage sort of the relationships that you have. So we will be doing more on that very, very soon. And so that should be very exciting. Okay, so I've got the next one queued up here for ready. We get this one a lot. I am open to taking a lower level position as part of my reentry process, but how can I convey this to a potential employer without looking desperate or getting the feedback, oh my gosh, you're way overqualified, you shouldn't be having this job. I have a feeling this comes back to your principles, but how do we effectively articulate if we are willing to take a lower level job or lower salary than we may have come out at? How do we articulate that in a positive way?
Yes, I definitely do hear this. And, what I would say was go back and definitely take a look at, the values and the skills that you bring, and know how they match up. If you're interested in taking a lower paying job, maybe you're moving into a different industry or a different position, or maybe you have a longer career pause and say, look, I am committed to this work. I am so excited to use these skills. And, I know that one of your concerns may be that I have a lot of experience. I am happy to bring that to this team and to share and to use that as an asset for this company. I'm so excited to use my knowledge and share that with everybody on the team. And, I really want to work and I want to do this kind of work. I'm excited about this. I get so energized because last time I was doing that work for this volunteer experience, I was able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. So talk about how you're really interested in the work that job specifically is asking you to do. So, yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Okay, next one. This is a great question. I've gotten through several of the interviews. I'm feeling great about it. And then they asked me for my professional references.
Yes.
And I don't have any super recent work experience or people that could vouch for me. What do I do?
Yeah. So I know that I've written references from my clients before.
Yeah.
When they've done the work with me, I know them so well that I have, and, in going through a program like what we do, employers realize that you're serious about your reentry and that you want to get back. So just talking about that is great. So references, use your coach if you have one. Also look at your volunteer experience and just ask people. It's amazing. Like going back to that networking piece, like it's amazing what people will do when they just know that you're interested. I've had clients who didn't talk about their interest in returning to work with anybody. And so, friends would have job opportunities available or come up, and they didn't realize that my client wanted to return to work. They didn't realize, they thought she was too busy with her kids and with some other volunteer experiences. So people don't know that, and they need to be reminded.
Yeah, that's a great. And also speaking from experience as someone who has worked with many, many people over my career, I literally will give references to people I worked with 10, 12 years ago at this point, and I'm always happy to do that. So I think it's a nod to maintaining, even at a very base level, your relationship, your previous working relationships. I'm not saying you have to be in touch every day, but then when I get an email out of the blue, hey Colleen, like I'm going for this great job. They're asking for a reference. I'd love for you to be able to speak to my experience working with you. I'm always happy to do that for people because it gives me a way to help someone too, right? And so I know it's hard to ask for help and you feel a little bit out of the loop. But ultimately, like you're putting good karma by giving the reference, and those people, they want to help you. They really, really do. I think.
Yes, exactly. And if you have recent volunteer experience and you've been working with people and you have great relationships with them, definitely, it doesn't have to be a paid experience. Your volunteer experience is relevant, and those people know you and know your character. They are perfect for references too.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. We've got a couple to get through. I know we've got about 10 minutes left. Are there best practices for following up with the hiring manager for feedback about why you weren't hired? I would like to be able to learn and adapt, but often don't get any tangible feedback.
Yes. So this is a great question. And I love this because there are things that you can do before you know whether or not you get the job that can help you out with this. And so I would definitely, as you progress in the interviews, get to the point and say, when you're in person with somebody in the interview, ask them, is there any hesitations that you have in hiring me? And let them answer. And so that is a really great way to just to clear the air and to show that you're really interested in the position as well.
Great. Yeah. So before that final decision's been made, you're able to get a little bit of information about, potentially there's some specific skill or there's a timing issue or whatever it might be, to be able to inform sort of your future search.
Yes, because it can be really hard to get that after the fact, but if you preempt it, then you'll have a better understanding.
Yeah. And I know it's a really difficult situation also for the hiring manager. I know at a previous company when we hired a lot of people and we just really didn't give feedback after the hiring decision had been made, because it opened us up to this, influx of, and then so it was so hard because you really wanted to help people, but the company policy of the place I was at didn't allow for it. Right. And so then you're just like, I really want to help you, but we picked someone else. And it's like, there's really nothing else you can say. And so it can be very frustrating. So I love the advice about getting into that earlier on as you're in the flow of that process, when people are a little more willing to give that feedback. That's fantastic. Okay, quick plug for Anna, because someone asked, what is the name of Anna's coaching business? And it is Parents Pivot. And we are going to be sending all of the attendees, we are going to be sending the follow-up to, which will have all of Anna's contact information as well. Because we love our coaches and we appreciate them. Okay, let's see.
I can hop in with one.
Yeah, please. So, I have one to go after you.
I mean, so one question we saw come up over and over again is asking for flexibility as a return to work candidate completely out of the question?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Are your hands tied, or what kind of strategies or advice do you have there?
Yes. So flexibility is often so important to us. And like you referenced earlier, Colleen, it's also important for younger generations too. So this is not something that is unique to working parents. People are asking for this more and more. And especially right now, I know we've got this crisis on our hands, and out of the crisis comes silver linings. And one of those silver linings hopefully will be that people have more tangible experience with remote work and know that it's a possibility. And I know that, so when you're looking for a position, not starting with that right off the bat, if you want to get in there, you want to show them that you're a great asset to the team, that you've got the commitment and the competence and you can do the job before you start bringing up flexible work. So definitely do that a little bit later in the process, and you'll be able to gauge it. You'll be able to see whether people are on flexible work arrangements. I know you guys work with companies specifically that do this, so that's awesome. And another thing, if you want to bring up flexible work with organizations, talk about your past experience. If you've had a volunteer position, that's likely a flexible work, remote work option. So I guess that brings me to one point. Flexible work is considered remote work. It's considered flexible in time. There's lots of different ways to categorize flexible work, but if you've had a volunteer position, it's likely that you didn't have an office, that was a remote work experience. How did that work for you? What tools did you use? How did you communicate with people? How did you build trust with your fellow volunteers? How did you make sure that communication was clear? So talk about your past experiences and show how that can help your company do what they need to get done. And then also, with flexible work, everybody's experiencing this now. It's an opportunity to ask the company, what has been your experience? What has worked well for remote work within your organization? And that can, their response can tell you a lot. It can tell you whether it did work well or whether it's not going so well. And if it's not, you can take that as a clue. There are also a ton of studies that have been done on the productivity that employees have when they are on a remote work or flexible work arrangement. And so you can reference those studies when it gets to it, if it gets to that level. But definitely, talking about your own experience and asking the company, what's your experience been like with remote workers? What, if any, going back to that hesitation question, what, if any, hesitations would you have about that? What concerns? The biggest concerns are, is she going to get the work done? And am I going to be able to trust her? So those are the two things. So if you can demonstrate how you've done that in your flexible work background and experience, then that alleviates those two questions. So it's all about understanding the mindset and addressing those before they can really ask.
Flexibility is not unique to return to work candidates. I can assure everyone that we all, even in our own professional lives, are having those conversations and continuing to make progress against that. I think also, to add to Anna's point, flexibility means many different things to many different people. And so really understanding what your true flexibility needs are, because if you just say flexibility, that hiring manager or that person might just think, oh my gosh, she wants to be fully remote, fully asynchronous, and that might not be what you're asking for at all, right? You might want to start at 7 and end at 4, or like whatever the thing is for you that's really important. For me, it's I don't like to commute more than 20 minutes. Clearly, I'm not commuting anywhere right now. But there's some things to me that were really important that it's helpful to go through an audit of what your flexibility request is. And then when you bring it up, it's easier to talk about it, right? Because it's not.
Yeah. And I did want to say, like, don't use your personal reasons for wanting the flexible work.
Yes.
You can have those, and those can be your real reasons, but don't talk about that with the employer. Talk about how flexible work will benefit them. Yeah. And that's all they care.
That's exactly right. You've been around the block. You know your stuff. That's exactly right. Like, we know that we want it because it helps us be better moms, and we can be more productive at work, and we can do all the things. What they care about is, can you get your job done? Are you going to be great on my team? Are you going to make my life easier? Not harder, easier, right? If you can prove those three things, generally those conversations go really well. Okay, we have time for one more question. So let's end on confidence. And I know this is the theme that you talked about early on. So what is sort of the last thing you want to leave people with for bringing their professional confidence up to where it was before the career pause? Is there like I know there's no silver bullet. I wish there was for everybody to have the confidence and to really embrace the power in that pause, but we'd love to just hear from you on best practices there.
I know this is definitely something that I meet my clients at this point, when you are not feeling the confidence or not feeling the clarity about what you want to do. And I know that this is a real thing, and that's something that I love to help my clients on, and we've got lots of tools and things that we run through, but it's hard to do. It's hard to do alone, and it's hard to do in a single moment. Yeah. This is something that takes time to build up and to continuously remember that I've got this and I can do this. And so I wanted to give a gift to everybody who's on the call today. Every person that I've helped return to paid work has started with an exploratory 30-minute coaching call. And so I would love to offer that gift to anybody on this call today. And the way that you claim this gift is that I will send you an email after this program. And what I want you to do is reply to that email. In the subject line, write yes and hit send. And that's all you have to do.
That's amazing, Anna. Thank you. Like when Katie told me that you were going to do that, I was just like overwhelmed. And I know Anna's already been part of our Unity program with coaching as well, with people that have been impacted by unemployment and job loss. And like, we're so grateful for the support that you're offering this group and the Mom Project community. And so we have been absolutely so overwhelmed with the response already in the chat, and our team. I'm watching my team on Slack and everybody on YouTube about how gracious and how helpful this has all really been. And so thank you so much for being with us, and for Katie for, as always, crafting all of the programming and making it all come together.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love this. Y'all have a great mission, and it's so aligned with mine, and this is awesome.
Thank you so much, Anna. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll see you at the next Unity Hour. Have a wonderful weekend, whatever that means right now.
Bye, guys.